I was going through a separation with a partner of 15 years, and I had started work with a traditional talking therapist, and it became very obvious to me after about a month or so of work with her that there was something else inside and deeper down that I'd been struggling with. And so I reached out and had a really good network of support folks, and one of them was actually a Chi client. We sat down and he walked me through his journey and suggested that I look into it. Going through a separation with a partner is obviously a traumatic experience into itself, but what it required for me and what interested me about it was when I started peeling back the layers of the onion of myself and what I needed to work on, I found some things in there that I needed some help with and some acceleration, and it seemed like the obvious way to go accelerate that healing and that learning. What I did to prepare for that was a lot of work with my own therapist, a lot of reading myself, not just on, sort of psychedelic assisted healing, but just healing in general. And so I did the work to sort of understand what was deeper down. And what it ended up being is a letter that I read to Sadaf. And I remember doing so in just complete tears. Like, it probably took me half an hour to get through something I could read in 5 or 10 minutes. And so that very start with Sadaf is when I felt this sort of the open arms of Chi and bringing me into this program. And Sadaf really helped me prepare so that when I was going through the sits, that I'd come in with the intention. She really just encouraged a very open and very sort of vulnerable state, which, for a high-functioning, middle-aged executive man is not an easy thing to do. But she really did, and prepared all the way up to the sort of the first sit. I was very, very nervous. I didn't know what I was going to see because of some of the childhood stuff that I'd peeled back, as well as, I should say, I'm a pretty natural guy. So I don't utilize drugs recreationally. I have to have a broken limb to even take a Tylenol. And so I was a little bit worried about what might come of this. The doctor explained what it was. There was a medical beforehand, which all just sort of started to help building the confidence. And then the sits themselves, the nerves abated after the first one. I started looking forward to the second and the third. The first one being very profound. Some of the things that I wrote in my little journal are probably some of the most powerful things that stick with me today. In fact, I have them framed in my bedroom. Just the words that I wrote to remind me of the experience that I went through and what I learned. And then the integration sessions the day after and the weeks after really helped unpack what that learning was and support me in my kind of continued growth. When I pulled up old family photos and talked to friends that I had when I was young, and thankfully a sibling and a father who still remember that childhood, was, my mother was a very loving woman, but there's one haunting photo that I have of her sitting on a rocking chair in front of a Christmas tree. And I was lying on her lap, looking to be held as a child. And then how that manifested itself was me seeking affirmation and being scared of being abandoned as a person throughout my entire life. So here I am, a person who had a romantic relationship of 15 years breakdown, a family breakdown, and the testament to what she's accomplished is as follows. So that abandonment carried on into my adult life. The abandonment fear is gone. I don't have it anymore. But that abandonment fear manifested itself in all sorts of terrible ways for my former partner, for my kids, for my relationships with others. And it really helped me pass that. The second one is the fear of going broke. I already knew that, my family was in financial straits when I was just leaving to go to university, and I had to fight for life on my own. What I didn't know was both grandfathers on each side also had financial issues. Ultimately, they were successful individuals, but there was this sort of like this financial fear that was in every fiber of my being. Prior to the session, one of the things that I did for myself physically is put myself on a longevity diet. So the David that's in front of you today is 50 pounds lighter than what he was a year and a half ago. So I'd lost all this weight. I'm in business. I have to dress well, you know, suits, ties, slacks, etc., all that great stuff. Well, people at work were going, like, you're losing so much weight, like, you need to go buy some new clothes. So I made a plan one Saturday to go invest in a wardrobe because of this intergenerational financial thing. I'm also an accountant, so I can be frugal, but I'm a guy that doesn't spend a lot of money on myself. So I went to my favorite men's shop and then planned to go to the mall to get some casual stuff because everything wasn't fitting, from bathing suits to underwear to t-shirts to dress clothes. And I didn't really set a budget. I just sort of made a list of like, here's all the stuff that I need to do. And I had money in the bank, quite a bit of it. And I went and spent several $1,000s at the first shop. I felt great after that and went and grabbed myself a coffee and continued my journey to drive to the stores to go get, you know, the bathing suits and the athletic wear. On that drive, out of nowhere, I got nauseous and actually ended up having to stop my vehicle and vomit on the road. And the trigger in me was saying, you just spent, you know, X number of $1,000s on clothes. You can't do anymore. Like, you need to go home. You're going to go broke. And so that is just one example of probably many micro moments in my life where I struggled with this sort of childhood trauma, if you will. Now, I'm not saying she fixed all this and I don't care about money. I do, but the triggers that were there before that would have made me hesitate or question a decision and bug me, they're gone, right? And since then, I've been able to take risks kind of financially and not live in fear of the consequence of those decisions, right? Just making those good decisions. So the program helped me, I think, fundamentally rewire some of that old wiring so that I could live a healthy, balanced life.
What advice would you give someone considering the PsyQi program?
Be curious. And be curious about the program, but also be curious about yourself. The curiosity needs to start with yourself and asking those uncomfortable questions. And having a network, right? Whether it's family, friends, that you can be curious and vulnerable with to get you prepared. I do really believe that it's not a magic bullet. Like, you can't just walk in and just expect change to happen. You have to know a bit about what you want to change, a bit about who you are. You're not going to solve everything in one day. Make sure you journal. I wasn't a guy that journaled before. I journal every day now. So have your journal so that you can write your thoughts and you can reflect on them. And then the integration sessions, they're fantastic. So Sadaf and the whole team, as well as, you know, the other clients, because I did a group one, are amazing. Everybody believes in confidentiality. Everybody is very supportive. I ended up hugging people that I never thought I would hug when we were done. But be prepared to do the work of integration. And for me, when I think about integration, it's not a one-time thing. I think it's a lifelong thing. So be prepared to change habits and routines in your life, and you will see the benefit. I can honestly say that every day, every night, every thought, every reaction that I now have has fundamentally changed. It hasn't changed who I am, but it's changed all sorts of things for the positive.